Hey guys, it's Stratton, and I wanted to give you a real quick rundown on the 2020 AP Biology test. Of course, this year's test is just going to be FRQs only with no multiple choice. Okay, we are still going to be covering the 6 units, and this is what we're going to be reviewing over the next few weeks. So the first 6 units, excluding evolution and excluding ecology. Now, colleges have said they still want you to know that information, and it's still important, and it still does underlie all of biology, but you're not going to get discrete questions on either evolution or ecology. Okay, we're going to be going through the science practices briefly today because this is where you're going to be assessed on the FRQs. Okay, there are 6 science practices. We'll go through those in a minute. Okay, the FRQs this year, there are 2 of them. The first one is a 25-minute, 10-point question that will be about 65% of your grade. That question has 4 parts. Part A is going to be asking you to explain a biological concept, process, or model. So really what that is factual information. So they're going to be asking you about a particular model or experiment, and you're going to be asked to then look at scientifically some information, be asking you facts, like for example, about protein synthesis, and you're going to need to be able to give some facts there about that. Part B, not strictly factual. It's going to be asking you to be looking at an experimental design procedure and identify the parts of that. Part C is going to be asking you to analyze some data, probably in either tabular, so a table, or in graphical format. And you're going to be asked to analyze that data. Part D will be asking you then to justify or make a prediction about that procedure or about that experiment. So again, that's going to be 65% of the test. The second question is going to be a 15-minute, probably 4-point question. And you'll notice that this jumps to, says free response question 4, right? The other one said question 1, and it says question 4. That's because for the 2020 test, originally there were supposed to be 6 questions. And question 1 was, that the experimental design analysis question. Question 2 was supposed to be another 10-point one that asked you to make a graph. That's out. And then 3, 5, and 6 were other questions. So question 4 is the one they've chosen to go with. And that's going to be asking you to look at some sort of phenomena, especially one that's had some sort of disruption to it. And part A, describe the concepts or processes. Part B, explain the concepts or processes. Part C, predict the effect of a change on that system. And then part D, justify your prediction. So no graph here probably, but some sort of diagram, some sort of system that they're going to be showing a disruption to. Okay, so science practice number 1, this is all about the concepts. This is about the information, the factual information. So this is going to be asking you to actually make some recall about, protein synthesis, for example, or about photosynthesis, or about cell communication. All possible things can come up on this test. So again, describe it, explain it. Those are 2 of your action words. Okay, we're jumping to science practice 3 because science practice 2 is one that's primarily about graphs. But science practice 3 is going to be asking you to identify a question, look at experimental design, look at hypotheses, so your alternative or your null hypothesis, and look at controls in an experiment. This is all experimental design procedure. So as long as you know how to design a controlled experiment and you know how to identify the parts of that experiment, you should be okay here with this. Okay, science practice 4 is about data. Now, you'll see 4A is asking you to construct a graph, plot, or chart. You're not going to be asked to do that. There's no way for you to graph, especially if you're doing this on your phone. So most likely it's going to be asking you to describe data from a table or graph, as you see up here at 4B. So they're going to give you a graph. They're going to ask you about that graph. And probably what they're going to ask you is for science practice 5. See how it says here in 5B, use confidence intervals or error bars to determine whether a sample mean is statistically significant from another one. So probably they're going to give you some sort of graph that's going to have error bars, and they're going to ask you to interpret that data. That would be my guess. Now, it's possible they could ask you to perform a chi-square test. Will they? I don't know. I can't make a prediction on that, but I do know they're going to give you data, they're going to give you a graph, and then you're going to be asked to analyze that. Now, we've done a lot of that. I feel like you guys should be good at that. And so I'm not really worried about that. Okay, finally, science practice 6. This is the big one. So if you notice, 6A, 6B, 6C, there are 3 words there that you should see. Claim, evidence, reasoning. We've done CERs. So again, what is going on? You're going to have to identify something about a phenomenon. You're going to have to pull some evidence for that. So what are the numbers? What is the data that backs up that claim? And then finally, the reasoning, how does this connect to the larger scientific principle? So we've done plenty of CERs. I feel like you guys should feel relatively comfortable with that. This is scientific thinking. Okay, for 6D and 6E, you're really going to be looking at, there's going to be some kind of disruption taking place in this phenomenon and what's going to take place once that disruption happens. So again, making a prediction and then justifying a prediction using data, using scientific concepts, that sort of thing. So looking back at these questions again, so we had 25 minutes for a 10-point question. That's 65% of the test. You're going to be asked to look at a concept. You're going to be asked to look at some data and an experimental design, and you're going to be asked to analyze that data and make a prediction. So they're going to give you a graph, or they're going to give you a table of data. You're going to be asked to analyze that. Question number 4 or question number 2 is going to be asking you, hey, here's this scenario where there's some sort of system, some sort of biological system, and look, this disruption has happened to this system. So tell us what's going on in the system, and then tell us how that system is going to change once the disruption takes place. Okay. So we will be giving you FRQs that model these sorts of questions from now until the test. And then we'll be going through those and trying to explain each one as you do them, because I always say you want to practice the way you're going to be assessed. So we are going to be doing 2 FRQs and 2 FRQs and 2 FRQs until you guys feel comfortable with this. So I hope that's helpful.